Palestine, and Milano. And the local board of city-county officials is steaming. At a call session this afternoon, the 8-member board voted unanimously to send a strongly worded telegram to the president, seeking executive intervention in the Amtrak decision, since a potential 2 million passengers in Dallas, Waco, and Temple will be bypassed a second time. However, the passenger train really went down in bankruptcy a few years ago. And after the meeting adjourned, I asked committee co-chairman Jerry Gilmore why we want the service anyway.
We're in a situation of transportation crisis. Highways are overloaded. Airlines are overcrowded. A lot of people that are afraid to get on highways and on airplanes that want to use the passenger train. I think we need to use every available means of mass transportation that's available to us.
The only thing moving at Union Terminal on this cold December day is one freight train in the distance and a flock of pigeons. To quote that Amtrak official, Dallas can, what was it he said? Expect Amtrak service soon. Well, now, after we've been turned down, soon becomes a relative term. Relative to what? The year 2000? In that case, 1980. Could be soon. At Union Terminal in Dallas, this is Jim Mitchell, Channel 8 News on the Move.
We've had a very fine turnout. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Watkins is a newly elected member of the Red Oak City Council in Ellis County. Soon after his election, he was asked to resign from either his firefighting position in Dallas or his council seat. Watkins, in turn, filed suit against the city and his boss, Fire Chief Merrill C. Hendricks, and he explained why.
Well, just violation of constitutional right, I feel like, for not only me, but all the city employees.
Is there any chance that being on the Red Oak City Council affects your duties as a fireman?
No, there isn't. In fact, I held a school board position for 6 years, and it had no effect on my performance of duties as Dallas fireman.
Almost every major city in Texas has a charter provision similar to Dallas's. So this lawsuit could affect some 100,000 people. The city of Dallas faces Fireman Councilman Watkins in court Tuesday morning. For Channel 8 News in the Move, this is Judy Hanna at the Dallas County Courthouse.
It's a situation of not having been given enough money to continue to grow. And any time you have a level of funding that remains constant year after year, there is always the tendency of overspending the budget. So we have a situation where, unfortunately, we have approximately $38,000 deficit. But we also have some program and priority emphasis that would demand freeing up some of the versatile monies. So that means that we must begin to streamline in those categories where we're spending most of our monies, which is in the category of personnel. Some 83% of our program budget is spent in personnel. So if we're to free up any monies at all for new programs, new priorities, then we must streamline in the personnel category.
The money would be used to replace this building, which is the Collin County Courthouse. That building was constructed in 1874, which means in 2 years it'll be 100 years old. It's still in use. In fact, it's so very much in use that it's really crowded.
You can see here for yourself, this old commissioner's room here. This is where we have commissioner's court. You just don't want anyone in here. It's so old and dilapidated. It was built when we had 14,000 people. Today we have 70,000 people plus. And this is just not good common sense to go ahead and try to repair a building like that.
Now, those who are opposing the bond issue say they can get by with the old building a few more years, but mainly they're opposed to the new location. That's away from downtown McKinney, at the edge of town, on land donated by a land developer. The principal spokesman for the opponents is mortgage company owner Lewis Miller.
For instance, we don't know how much money will be spent on the old courthouse. We don't know what will be done with the old courthouse. We don't know who will pave the streets around the new building. We don't know what will happen to any of these things, and we've made a sincere effort to find out, and the answers have not been forthcoming. We feel like also that it's unfair to the citizens of Collin County to put them in the position of having to bargain with one concern that will own all the land around this courthouse.
Another concern is the safekeeping of records like this that date back to 1874, the same date this building was built, and there are some even older. Like this building, these records have had to be recovered and refurbished for their protection. Judge Proctor and others hope now that they have to stop refurbishing the building and build a new one. And that's the question for Collin County voters to settle tomorrow. This is Roger McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move at the Collin County Courthouse.
Their guideline says that it's not good to exceed 10% of debt compared to assessed valuation. In this program that we have proposed here, the highest point, the highest level, we would be slightly over 6% of debt compared to assessed valuation. And I also should be pointed out that we assess at only 55% of actual value. So compared to actual value, our ratio of debt would be about 3%, you see.
We had a number of men come to visit our campus and to meet with our committee. We were interested in every one of them. We think every one of them was interested in this fine position. I'm now happy to present to you our unanimous choice, the next head football coach at SMU, a man all of you know, Dave Smith.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hardin. Very, very grateful for the opportunity to return to Southern Methodist University, the university that I call home. The confidence that has been displayed, that has been evidenced in me is strengthening, and I look forward with a tremendous positive approach to a tremendously strong future for SMU football.
Dave, have you had any chance yet to meet with any of the players at all?
No, I haven't, Vern.
Do you plan to soon?
I would like to have an opportunity to before I return to Stillwater.
Well, I think the biggest factor, was our offensive line. Anytime you got a line that blocks as well as our line does, well, it's a great credit to them, to have a back or two backs, to gain over 100 yards.
Did you really think that you could run on the Redskins as well as you did?
Well, probably not as well as we did, but, we knew we had to move the ball against them. We had to set up some kind of ground attack, so we could attack them with fire passes, play action passes and stuff. Usually go into a game, hoping to set up your running game, you know. And if your running game's going, then you got a lot of other ways to attack.
With two outstanding running backs, yourself and Calvin Hill in the backfield, how well do you all complement each other back there?
Well, I think Calvin probably helps me more than I help him, you know. I mean, I know a defense would probably key on him more, and that's probably why I had as many long games, you know, Saturday as I did, because I think they do respect Calvin quite a bit because of his breakaway ability, you know, and he's a big, strong, powerful runner, and so they have to really respect him and play him a little more than they do me.
How important is this game coming up Sunday against the Giants?
Well, it's really important, you know, as far as everybody talks about momentum, and surely momentum is a great thing to have going for you, you know, into the playoffs, and momentum-wise, you know, it's a big game, and we need to win the game.
A Richardson viewer is concerned about the terrible road conditions on Alpha Street in Dallas. She understands the road is under construction, but wants to know why the city hasn't made the stretch a little safer. Contact 8 visited the scene and did find that Alpha is a dangerous avenue for drivers. But Dallas officials say apparently a lot of motorists aren't following directions. The city has posted signs on this road telling drivers the street is closed to through traffic. Construction will be completed when weather permits. An Arlington resident had her car stolen in November and reported it to the Arlington Police Department. The police found the car later, but by mistake impounded it and then charged the lady a $25 pound fee. She called Contact 8 for help. We called the Arlington Police Department. The department admits that a change in a computer that hadn't been fully explained to a patrolman resulted in the mix-up. Arlington police do take blame for this mix-up and will refund the original tow fee and pound charge immediately. Some Louisville residents called Contact 8 recently and said their sewers had been blocked up and homes flooded because a local chicken restaurant didn't have a proper grease trap. Louisville officials tell Contact 8 that they can't be sure the chicken place caused the sewer disaster, but the restaurant is spending $3,000 on a larger grease trap, which should eliminate any future problems. If you have any problems or questions, write me at Contact 8, Communications Center, Dallas. Please include a stamped, self-addressed envelope. That's Contact 8. I'm Cecile Burant.
Mrs. Inez Ince is decorating an heirloom for Christmas. It's a rare Brazilian tree, dead but still intact, that belonged to her grandmother. Every year, Mrs. Ince takes it out of the attic and decorates it.
inconspicuously, so we'll announce his route, the Mexico City, Chicago run, bypassing the city of Dallas.
The Dallas-San Antonio corridor, which along with the St. Louis, Dallas overnight service and the Mexico tourist potential, we consider to be the so we're very almost a situation. And if we want,
Mr. Gilmore, could we get you over here for just a moment? Mr. Gilmore, you were pretty outspoken as to
Amtrak inquiring about the results of their board meeting yesterday.
For about 14 years. Been on the city council.
Have to go. I think it's pretty difficult at this time to really
Billy, do you think this looks all right? That's fine. Can you read?
Cecil had the big story yesterday, and I hadn't seen Nancy yet, but he's busy traveling a lot. We just don't ever. Tremendously expensive, but I'll tell you what. Also, take a look at Park and Recreational. A lot of him and Myrtle.
Yeah.
Mrs. Ingst, how old is this Christmas tree?
This tree is about 30 years old.
Given to you by your grandmother?
Given to me by my grandmother.
Well, now, what kind of tree is it? Certainly not an ordinary American fir tree.
This is a tree of the traveling man, found on the Amazon jungles.
And why is it called the tree of the traveling man?
They call it tree of the traveling man is for life saving. You punch the tree, they will give you water for you to survive.
Well, it's interesting to me. Why do you keep a 30-year-old tree, take it down every year, and put up a dead tree for a Christmas tree?
This tree is very sentimental tree, and I keep because it's an unusual one.
You know, most people like me get a new tree every year, and they put it up, and then right after New Year's Day, I take it down and put it on the front curb for the garbage man to take it away. But I guess if I had a 30-year-old rare Brazilian Christmas tree that had lasted that long, I'd keep it too, dead or not. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Martha McIntyre.
The intersection of Commerce and Irvay is where Ginger Prettyman earns her pay. She's been a public service officer for nearly a year, but doesn't find the weather as much of a problem as the holiday traffic.
It really is a problem. There's so many shoppers coming here, there, and everywhere, and they're just thinking about getting their Christmas gifts and getting home to where it's nice and warm, and they don't pay too much attention to the traffic officers in the street.
And the traffic officer in the street at Bryant and St. Paul is George Tilley. He also has been a public service officer for about a year and likes the responsibility of directing traffic at one of the city's busiest intersections. But Tilley admits the cold weather creates problems, especially in controlling pedestrians.
Well, the biggest problem is the people that run across the street. They don't want to wait because it's pretty cold. They can take out across the street at any time.
These public service officers have been on the streets of downtown Dallas for about a year and a half. Because of them, about 40 regular police officers have been freed from traffic duties so they can spend more of their time in crime control. Initially, there were fears that public service officers might run into a lot of trouble, but apparently this has not been the case.
We've been very pleased with the public service officer program. The people have learned their jobs quicker than we anticipated. They're doing a good job. They've been accepted by the public and by our officers. We anticipated a problem, and they're not being armed, but this hasn't presented any problem. The citizens appear to respect them, and there are very few instances where they have problems.
The biggest problems, apparently, at this time of the year are the cold weather and the crowds of holiday shoppers. But for these public service officers, that's what the job is all about. That's how these people earn their pay. Jack Hill, Channel 8 News on the Move.
The estimated loss is $140,000.
Do you know how it apparently started, Chief?
No, when the first units arrived on the scene, the entire attic was involved in the fire. One of the initial problems, of course, is prevent the spread to the adjoining apartment units. Their first lines were placed to make what we call a water curtain to cut the fire off, which they did real well, and there's no exposure damage, only one unit involved, but since the entire attic was involved, of course, there's extensive damage to that one building.
This is the parking lot of the North Park Shopping Center, and there might be enough cars to stretch all the way from Detroit and back, but the crowds on the outside are nothing compared with the crowds on the inside. When someone came up with the term sea of people, this must have been what he had in mind. People by the thousands getting in their last weekend of Christmas shopping. We talk a lot about last-minute shopping at this time of the year, but for North Park, a better term might be last weekend shopping, a weekend which has turned out one of the largest crowds of all. Whether or not a business shows a profit during the year sometimes can be determined by the Christmas shopping season. And if that's the case, it appears the merchants at North Park have little to worry about. Jack Hill, Channel 8 News on the Move.
What in the world is a pillow bus? Nosy or not, I had to find out if that meant I was seeing a bedroom on wheels or maybe a traveling feather plucker. Well, that's when I met a man who calls himself Pillow Packing Pittman of Dangerfield, Texas. Really named Joe, he told me he operates a mobile pillow cleaning service, a type of job you won't find listed in Career Opportunities Unlimited. For $2.50, he'll take your old dirty pillow and dump the feathered insides into his revitalizing machine. Ultraviolet rays remove the grime, and ozone lights kill the odor. Then he blows the feathers into a brand new tick that guarantees your pillow is germ-free. Joe is his own seamstress and promises he can have your pillow off the bed and back on the same day. Joe told me he's been hustling pillows for 2 years and says he makes as much as $100 a day, enough to support his wife and 5 children. He takes mass orders from hotels and hospitals and also hires out to charity organizations to split the profits. But he generously gave me one for free. I guess the only hazard to the pillow cleaning business would be a tickled nose, because when a sneeze comes, feathers break out all over, and this time they just happen to be all over me. Martha McIntyre, Channel 8 News on the Move.
clean these feathers and I put them back in this, and I do it right here in this machine.
That's really simple.
And what I do is I take a pillow, cut it open, pour it into the machine like this, turn it on. It goes through a process, kills all the germs and bacteria and the dirt and grime and everything fall out, and this feathers get every place. And then I pull it out over